honestly, part of the process was me actively working on myself and addressing why am I afraid? And
Mhm.
really thinking like, if I leave, like, what is it that I fear? And if it happens, am I still going to be alive? Am I still going to be okay? And at the end of the day, when I thought, I was like, leaving, I'm going to be okay.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us here on The Reset. I'm your host, Letitia Barriola. We are here to help you rethink your career. I have a very special guest with me today, Erin Ashley Simon. She is a host and Chief Culture Officer plus co-founder of XSET. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited, especially about this topic. So I want to get right into it. I'm just like, oh,
Let's do it. Yeah, so we'll talk more about your work with XSET in just a moment, but let's talk about the journey getting here because it's not one people would expect. You shared on social media you had an exciting job at 24 that like anybody would want to have, right? The access you had, the excitement you're experiencing. Things turned sour. Can you take us through the journey of having that exciting job and then when things started to get kind of bad for you?
yeah. So I started in sports journalism, and at that time, I just felt like I couldn't be as creative as I wanted to be. And so I have a passion for music, and I decided to take the learnings that I've had in journalism and work towards going into the music industry and music media. Now, when I started, it was around the blog era, the golden era of
Yeah.
the blogging era. And, during that time, I had such a certain kind of notion and thought about how working in music would be, because I was like, oh, working in an industry with something that I love should be fun, right? And
Mhm.
and don't take me wrong, uh, it was fun, but I at certain point I started to see that there was aspects of the industry that were just weighing heavy.
Mhm.
That's I was young, right? I was right out of college, and I already came from working in sports since I was 17 to this space. And there are good sides of the music industry, but then also there's some not so great sides about the music industry. And so it was starting to weigh heavy on me. And I don't think I was well equipped at that time to be able to handle certain things like, the music industry is an environment that it has a lot of drinking at events and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Also, it's an environment where unfortunately, in some circumstances, it's not the greatest to be a woman in certain environments. And also, you have so many amazing artists, but at the same time, there is a lack of understanding of boundaries, right? Because people are
Mhm.
very passionate and they want to succeed and they want to win, but at the same time, because they have such a drive to win, it definitely weighted on the boundaries that I wanted to set at that time.
Yeah.
And at that age, I don't think I was as good at setting boundaries as I am now. And so it was just a lot of stress of all that, plus trying to be really good at what I do. And at the time, I was 24, and I had the opportunity to create series for TV and digital, which is very rare in itself to be 24 and doing that. And even rarer that one of the first series that I created for Revolt was with Cardi B. And so, it was a lot of great successes and a lot of great things that came for it, but it was a lot of stress. I deal with anxiety. That didn't help. And so my health, my well-being, it started to deteriorate. And
Yeah.
then so it went from being something that I truly loved and was passionate about to then something that really impacted my well-being overall. And part of it was, me not understanding certain aspects that of creating an environment for myself where my well-being's first. Because like when you're young, you're like, I gotta grind, I gotta like hustle culture, right? Like hustle
Yeah.
culture is not always healthy. And so
Yeah.
that coupled with just me having that lack of mental health and well-being foundation that I needed to instill, plus certain negative environments, it turned for the worse as I continued on in it.
Mhm. So thank you for sharing that, first of all. It's not easy to always talk about when things start out so great and start to unravel. And I think more people should share their stories instead of just kind of fronting like, this on paper, or at some points it's awesome and glossy and sexy, but man, was I suffering. And I just thank you for that, because it's you're being vulnerable and true to yourself, and I appreciate it. And so now I want to know, it's like, so how did you pick up yourself and say, I've got to go? Because I was sharing with you, it's so hard to leave even a job that's burning you out, or a job that's not great for your lifestyle, keeping you there late. You find yourself drinking more, or whatever it may be. Even people today are miserable and not taking care of themselves, and their job has a lot to do with it, but they still stay. How did you go?
How I decided to go was, there's multiple things that kind of encouraged me to go. I'm very grateful. I have a very supportive mother, and my mom was always like, I don't like how you are. I don't like how, this environment is impacting you. And she really encouraged me to go. And I think part of the reason why people are afraid to leave these situations is that they're afraid of uncertainty. They are afraid of rejection. And then in my instance, where I decided I want to leave and pursue a passion, there's things like afraid of failing, and like, okay, if I leave, what if it's worse, right? There's so many different things that go into it. And I really had to sit with myself and say, you know what? I'm at rock bottom right now. Like, can it get worse? And yeah, it could a little, but there's only more upsides when it comes to it. And I really had to, through the support of my family, through mental health services and therapy and exercises, I had to really work on letting go, and understanding that, like, my well-being is more important at the end of the day, and that everything else can be fixed, everything else can be worked on, right? Like getting a new job, I can work on that. Like, finding a new avenue or industry to work in, I can do that. Also, I still to this day, I still do work in music industry, but it's adjacent. So it's like I can still pursue that passion, but not be in it. And so I really had to, honestly, part of the process was me actively working on myself, and addressing, why am I afraid? And really thinking, like, if I leave, like, what is it that I fear? And if it happens, am I still going to be alive? Am I still going to be okay? And at the end of the day, when I thought, I was like, leaving, I'm going to be okay. So it really took, it wasn't like an immediate leave. It really took this actively working on myself, conversations with loved ones, and really being honest with myself and being accountable for myself as well, to finally say, you know what, I'm going to go.
Yeah. So much I can relate to in your story. But I think that a way to kind of sum that up is, it sounds like you just learned how to detach yourself, your identity, if you will, from the thing, like from the career. And you realize, like, whoa, like, I'm way more than this career, right? Like, my well-being is more important than this career. I can always go work and find something else. But I think that hustle culture that you mentioned, we get so caught up and so like integrated with our work that it becomes us. And finding when it's time to go, it's hard to go when you are your job. So I appreciate you for kind of like showing us how you detached yourself from that work. And my final question is kind of like, we're ending on a really fun note here. And that is showing people that, you didn't really stay in that industry. You hopped over to a whole new industry, and yet you followed a passion to get there. Tell us about, like, how you decided, I'm going to go work in this industry, how that all came about for you.
So I think I came to a point where I understood that, companies aren't always loyal to you. And so sometimes you just have to do what's best for you. And so 2018, I got laid off from another company that I worked at. And that environment as well wasn't the best. And it was right before I had hip surgery, and which was a double whammy of like, why I'm so upset. But then I really like, I'm very good at saving money. And so I had money set aside. So I was able to focus on healing. And then after that, I said to myself, I've been going through these situations where I've worked so hard for these companies and didn't feel like I was getting acknowledged or appreciated, or, I just didn't feel like I was happy in these environments. And so I said to myself, I said, you know what, I'm gonna give myself 6 months and I'm just gonna go after my passion that I've always had since I was a kid, which was video games. And I was like, I'm gonna make a career in this space. I don't know in what way or how. I'm just gonna go and do it. And so, luckily at that time, it was perfect for me to get into the gaming industry because people are becoming more interested in video games, and it's a big topic in media on the entertainment side. And so I started covering gaming and nerd culture for a publication. And my friend Kyle Harvey, he was the managing editor for that publication. And he really supported me in that because him and I would always geek out talking about video games, whether it's Street Fighter, things like that. And he was just like, you know what, Erin, why don't you just cover that side of things for us?
Yes.
And so I did. And it was just a trickling effect.
Yeah.
I did not plan to be a host in this space. I did not plan to be an executive in the gaming space. And also being like one of the very few Black women in C-suite positions in the gaming space. Yeah. And also Latin too. I'm an Afro-Latina. So for me, it kind of was a period where I just slowed down, stopped and said, what's going to fulfill me? What's going to make me happy? And I realized that this was going to make me happy. And then I just took the necessary steps and planned financially and planned accordingly to get to that point. And then everything else came together, because the one thing that I did throughout my entire career is that I always helped people and I always treated people with respect. So when it came that time for me to pursue a passion, I had so many people in my circle supporting me, helping me, mentoring me, and guiding me to where I wanted to go. That's one of the most important lessons. If you want to change your career, if you want to do something different, you even if before you think about it, even if you don't want to change your career, you got to treat everyone with the same level of respect. It doesn't matter if it's the CEO or the janitor, because at the end of the day, you never know where someone's going to be. And that's something that has really helped me, is the networks and the relationships and the kindness that people gave me and we gave each other. That is what really helped push me into moving into this industry that I am in right now.
Wow. What an incredible story. When I hear you, I think about the quote, or it's in the Bible, or so your gifts will make room for you. It's like, as you're walking this journey and taking a risk and following a passion, it's like doors are opening and your gift is making room for you and people are coming into the picture and your network is lifting you up. And it's just so fun to watch. And I know that it's encouraging to a lot of people, especially women of color, to see you have this much belief in yourself. And you almost have like this carefree way. You don't take it so seriously. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not the end all be all if you leave this job and I'm just going to try this out and see if it works. That like kind of carefreeness you have about your pursuits in work is contagious. And I know people can feel that when they hear you. So listen, Erin Ashley Simon, I'm going to be able to say I knew her when she was making the pivot, because this is just the beginning for you. You're so young. How old are you now?
I'm 30.
Oh my goodness. You're just getting started in ownership and hosting, all of it. Okay. Thank you again for joining me on The Reset.